Welcome to Brainstorium. I'm Anna Tizard, award-winning dream punk and deeply weird fantasy author. And yes, that's me and my fiction that's deeply weird. Explore and imagine with me the most unexpected story ideas using the surrealist word game of Exquisite Corpse. Find out more and join in at annatizard.com. This is a storytelling challenge unlike anything you've tried before. Hello, imaginative people. I'm Anna Tizard and this is episode 96 of Brainstorium. It's also the Christmas special. Give me a bit of a jingle. Now, I mentioned in the last show that I would be hosting an in-person game of Exquisite Corpse at my workplace with some unsuspecting colleagues. And yes, this happened about a week and a half ago now at our office Christmas do, which was very relaxed. People just brought in loads of food and we basically stuffed ourselves. Excellent stuff. There were also a lot of smaller games around like Jenga and various card games that people sort of migrated to it within an open area. Since with Exquisite Corpse, I needed a quiet space, separate space with a decent sized table that we could sit around, I booked a meeting room. But of course, the risk of this was that people might not realise that it was going on. So I printed out a notice on an A4 sheet of paper, left one in the kitchen by the coffee maker, and another one I stuck to the door of the meeting room, announcing a silly and strange word game by the name of Exquisite Corpse at 3 o'clock. But as 3 o'clock approached and I grabbed myself a cup of tea, I have to admit I was a little bit worried that no one would turn up. Was anyone going to go back to the coffee maker now at this stage in the afternoon if pretty much everyone had moved on to wine? I went into the room, I was more or less hidden from view from the door as I practically climbed into this huge stationery cupboard to root out a box of pens. And I heard voices and I saw faces at the window. A group of people was nudging open the door, asking about the game and what Exquisite Corpse meant. I was so relieved and thrilled. They were also curious and interested. So in they came and settled around the table, and I began to explain what it was all about. As I described the weird serendipities that can occur when a group of like-minded people gathers to play this weird game, it struck me that there were 8 of us and only 8 seats available. I could not have planned this. Before I went in, I couldn't even remember how many people you can fit around that table because every time I tried to nip in and get a glimpse of the meeting room before this day, there was always someone in it. There's always someone booking this room. Anyway, curiosity besides. I began by briefly summarising the history of the game, how the French surrealists used randomness to try and get past the controlling influence of the conscious mind, the logic of our critical minds to reach a deeper reality, perhaps. Previously unimagined possibilities. Then, to open up our imaginations and draw the curtains firmly on all work stuff, I asked them to think back to a TV series, a film, or a book that they've been enjoying lately and to picture a scene that gripped them. What were the characters doing? Was it a tense confrontation? What did they love about that story? Was the protagonist trying to get something, run away from something? What was the atmosphere of that scene? And while visualising it, what could they observe about the character's surroundings? Did this suggest any particular words or descriptions? I didn't spend too long on this. I just wanted to encourage us all into a storytelling mode of thinking. We played a round of Exquisite Corpse using printed off game slips, which have examples on them too, which you can find on my website. Stay tuned to hear more. And at each step, I went through the different kinds of words that you can try. So for describing words, you can have colours, textures, emotion-based adjectives, and more abstract adjectives like unbelievable or dangerous that generally describe a situation. For nouns, you can have animals, creatures, people's roles work best for people like taxi driver or mother. And again, you can have abstract concepts or intangible things like emptiness or indecision. And then the ever tricky action part, which I did my best to explain pretty much the way it's described on my play page. The results were very intriguing and colourful, the best of which I shall share with you now. The vast dragon fled with the gigantic void. A lot of big things in this Exquisite Corpse, and how strange is it that the dragon flees with a gigantic void instead of being sucked into it. To fly alongside a black hole or an empty space, this kind of suggests a very powerful dragon in possession of the void. I've never thought of a void as something you can take with you somewhere. If it's a sort of portal, then the dragon is travelling with a means of travel. This feels very wormhole. Next, we have the haunting jumper extinguished the fabulous authority figure. I like the idea of a haunting jumper, not just haunted, but haunting. It's a proactive spookiness. Then it extinguishes someone. I imagine this authority figure, I imagine a political leader or someone's boss receiving a jumper at Christmas as a gift. Something about it, they have a bad feeling about it. And why is it such a murky grey and all bubbly? Never mind. They pull it over their heads and pop. It slumps empty. They've disappeared. Let that be a lesson to us all. You can be in a position of authority. You can even be fabulous. But don't accept a jumper as a gift at Christmas if there's something haunting about it. It may just extinguish you. Next we have the catastrophic planet slapped the suspicious EasyJet Airbus. No offence to EasyJet, this is entirely randomised. Now, I realised there's actually a bit of serendipity in this one. I'm sure I've seen adverts, not necessarily for EasyJet, but adverts for planes and maybe travel agents in general, where you'll get an image, like maybe a cartoon of the Earth with a plane passing around it. So these images go quite well together. But then, so the whole thing again, because it's so hard to keep these in your mind. The catastrophic planet slapped the suspicious EasyJet Airbus. What's catastrophic about Earth, dare I ask? But how can a planet slap an Airbus? Could that be using winds, jet streams? If the Earth is irritated by planes whirring past, it might want to slap them away like a bug on a hot day. What's suspicious about this aeroplane? Another one was the lamenting Gruffalo started a circus with the ginormous dragon. Another sizable dragon here. This is a circus I'd like to go and see, although it does sound like the Gruffalo has some regrets around this, the lamenting Gruffalo, unless his plans to start a circus were sparked by some terrible loss or by loneliness. And does the circus work out if the dragon he's employed is maybe a bit too big for his biggest marquee. It really sounds like the basis for a children's story. Finally, and this one is really weird, the half-eaten spectre was reunited with the flamboyant Pringles can. This one already has ready-made connections in it to do with food. If a spectre is half-eaten, then reunited with a can of crisps, does this mean that this is the ghost of a crisp, returning to the place where its consciousness first emerged? If you eat only half a crisp and the rest falls and gets stuck to your Christmas jumper, hopefully not a haunted one or one that might extinguish you, does this mean that the spirit of the crisp has unfinished business and will return to the Pringles can to haunt you? Or was the can haunted in the first place? Someone reached in for a Pringle and they got a ghost instead, half eaten. So you can see that with only a little time to skim over the results in the midst of an in-person game, you can still pull out story ideas, or at the very least, curious situations that could be the basis for a story if you just poke them a little bit. Dragons and circuses, deadly haunted jumpers, and the ghosts of crisps. Of course. All this from just one round, and with people who had never played this before. I think with every group you play with, there's a different sort of mood. When I recited some examples of some of the best Exquisite corpses I've ever come across to this group, they seemed more intrigued by the rather beautiful, if inexplicable, classic. The bright-eyed deck of cards flew into a tree to find the gaunt daughter of time. I love that, but I have no idea what it means. But they were less taken with the most ridiculous. The humongous vampire vigorously washed the engorged cheese, which other groups in the past have really chortled at. I think this group were very much in storytelling mode from the start, imaginations at the ready. They were open to wonder, which is probably the best way to be with this game. But if you want to host an in-person game at Christmas, you might not have such a receptive or curious, ready group. To help things along, you could try my method of getting them to imagine a scene in something they've recently watched or read. Or it might be enough that you've already had conversations with them about other things or played other games with them first. If you've just finished Trivial Pursuit, or if you've done a quiz, anything word-based, it's quite likely that some of the facts and concepts that have come up in those games might seep into the Exquisite corpses and influence where people's imaginations go. So you could use this and be mindful of what else you might play or talk about before you begin the game, just as an experiment. To download free printable game sheets for an in-person game, just go to my why page at annatizard.com and scroll to the bottom of the page. Print on landscape and cut along the horizontal lines to create these long, thin gain slips. The different sections for different word entries all have examples on them. So if anyone gets really stuck and just can't think of anything, they can use one of these either as they are or as a springboard for other ideas. There's also a printable guide to playing the game in person on the same page, all at annatizard.com/how. And don't forget to bring plenty of pens or pencils. Now, in the last show, I invited you to write a short piece on one of the writing prompts that came up, the mealy-mouthed box. That is, a box that's struggling to speak its mind, or it might be a creature inside that box, or any other interpretation you can think of. And there were a range of unique interpretations. Nick Vrakar wrote, "The man standing on the soapbox shouted, 'The end is surely, probably, coming along. Maybe not today, but quite soon. If you plan for it, you'll see it. Don't, and you'll miss it. It won't end Thursday, probably.'" Tim thought, what a loon, as he wiped the locusts from his sleeves. Oh, nice twist there at the end. I always find it so striking and impressive when someone can write an entire story like that in such a short space like this. Thank you, Nick. You can find Nick's fiction at nvrakar.wordpress.com. That's nvracar.wordpress.com. Paul Macmillan wrote The Altar and the Box, and this is a dark one. The mealy-mouthed box sat on the cracked altar like it had been waiting centuries for someone foolish enough to listen. Candlelight lighted its warped grain, and every breath the priest took was filled with the scent of rot and cold wood. When the box shivered, he froze. It did not shake like something alive, more like a throat trying to form a word. The first whisper slid out between its seams and sounded like teeth finding each other in the dark. The priest felt it slip into his ear, feather soft and hungry as a single half-born syllable. It had no meaning, yet his bones tightened like it carried a command. The second whisper dragged barbs through his mind. The box sounded desperate, like a dying tongue clawing for words. He tried to summon a prayer, but the box swallowed the sound before it ever left his throat. He stepped closer, and some part of him believed he was comforting it, but another believed it had already hollowed him out and left only obedience behind. The third whisper came with a pulse of cold that cracked the altar beneath it. With every garbled word, the box ate something from him. Memory, warmth, a scrap of soul. The whispers were forming a language now, thick and wet. The box groaned like a jaw learning to open. The priest leaned in, unable to stop himself. The box finally spoke a full word. His name. Oh, this is dark and vivid and sort of suffocating. There's also something about the power of a person's name. It's an ancient idea that crops up in folk tales sometimes about how knowing a person's name gives you a power over them or the ability to get past their defences. And that's what you've tapped into there at the end. Thank you, Paul. You can find Paul Macmillan on X as Bookmarks, Love and Law. Dorothy Ario wrote, "Despite the yearly effort to crumble into the ocean, the pier's remaining pylons hid behind rows of annual warning signs. Do not enter, danger, slippery when wet, no trespassing, closed since 2002. A warm welcome to the curious teenaged wanderers. The girls and boys cuffed their pants and lined the shore with their socks and shoes. A mealy-mouthed box in the middle of a fence had its windows boarded up. The girls knew if, with enough coaxing, the board would shift out of place and you could slip into the building and exit from the back window onto the pier. The dusky water nipped at the weather-worn wooden pylons. The ocean mist dampened the pier, coating danger into the broken boards. The forgotten fishing platform watched, holding its breath, as the gaggle laughed and teased and tested the strength of the weary boards. Each of the friends found a serene perch and took rest to watch the sunset. The girls whispered secrets as the boys skipped rocks onto the water. One girl silently wished that every day could be like this one. She felt a melancholy knowing things that may never be like this again after the summer ends. The sun pulled the light out of the sky and stars began to freckle the darkness. The teenagers crawled back to shore. They walked through the warm water back to their shoes, escaping into the night before anyone could notice their mischievous presence. There's something subtle about this. It's kind of like watching a beautiful painting that's moving. I think the way that the teenagers remain unnamed and we don't hook onto any one person or point of view as the protagonist, we don't hear anyone's thoughts. And with the descriptions of the setting, our attention draws to that so that the setting is kind of like a character on its own. That moment in the middle where the forgotten fishing platform watched, I feel like there's potential for the setting, the pier, to turn on them. An intriguing piece of writing. Thank you, Dorothy Ario, for sharing your story. Eric Montgomery wrote Language Thief. I had a couple more hours before my deadline, enough time to clean things up. The draft was open, notes were open, a few source tabs sat behind them. I was cross-checking a quote when the notification appeared. Urgent. I clicked it and kept working. The message window sat there, small and polite. Working. I adjusted a sentence, saved, scrolled. When I went back to my notes, the window wasn't there anymore. I checked the dock. Nothing. I reopened the file from the folder. It loaded, but the section I'd been using was shorter than I remembered. The message refreshed. Processing language. A browser tab vanished, then another. I checked history, irritated now. They weren't there either. Come on, I said quietly. What are you even doing? It sat there like a mealy-mouthed box, busy without ever saying anything. I went back to the draft. It still read clean. Too clean. A quote I remembered arguing over slid past without resistance. I searched for a phrase I knew I'd cut earlier. Nothing came up. The message expanded. Reassembling. A sentence appeared, then another. Careful words, familiar ones. I tried to select them. The cursor moved. The text didn't respond. Another tab opened on its own, an email draft. The address field was already filled, close enough to be real. The cursor began to type. My jaw tightened. I realised I was holding my breath. The email filled with language I recognised. Calm, buffered. Every claim qualified just enough to sound responsible. A manifesto, but a reasonable one. Behind it, my draft had thinned. Quotes reduced to paraphrase. Context shaved down until nothing pointed back to a source. The message stopped. A system notice appeared. Unattributed material detected. Preparing release. The send button lit up. I watched the countdown, trying to remember which words were still mine and which ones had only ever been borrowed. A story of frustration and bewilderment that builds to this scary moment. Loss of control. In a way, I've often thought all the worst stresses in life, the scariest things, are the events that render us powerless, grappling for control. And the short sentences in this story create that sort of staccato effect as the narrator second guesses themselves, wonders what's going on, and the tension builds. Thank you for your creepy tale, Eric. You can find more of Eric Montgomery's tales and poems at madpoet.org, but just switch out the OE in poet for 03. That's madpoet.org. Paul Monteith wrote The Mealy-Mouthed Box. Under the Christmas tree came the hush of paper-thin voices, mixed with joyous ribbony harks and the merriment of bows. The gifts were excited about the coming unwrapping day. all except for a quiet red box that had arrived early and had been pushed further under the tree as later gifts arrived. It didn't mind, as he had been sworn to secrecy by the sender. "You're a bit tight-lipped," a green box said. The red box, wanting to avoid a conversation, shied away. "Not much to say," it replied in a dry, cardboardy voice. "Your postage mark suggests otherwise." "My postage mark is insignificant. What about that gift by the wrapped bike? Its postage mark is Lincoln." "Lincoln is a fine departure point, but your location?" "My departure point was just the striped candy cane North Pole stuck in an ice field." At the mention of the North Pole, all the crinkly chatter among the gifts stopped. "The North Pole?" said a voice from somewhere among the gift pile. The sound of glossy paper brushing over slick festive wrapping made a whispering sound as the gifts jostled to see the evasive red box. "Did you see him?" Green asked. "I saw elves," Red replied. "But did you see him?" "I saw—" Red searched for the words to say something without revealing too much. "I saw someone like the tree ornament over there." Paper rustled as the gifts turned, and they oohed and ahed as they gazed upon a red figurine ornament. "This is gorgeous and so Christmassy. I think what I love most is when the gifts rustle or jostle around with a crinkling sound. It makes the scene really come to life, and I can really picture it in my mind's eye. I can almost smell the Christmas tree. Let's have another jingle." All right, enough of that. I'll calm down now. You can find Paul Monteith on Blue Sky as Quantum Fairy. Right, it is time to reach for new, unique story possibilities, which can only be found in the Socks of Destiny. That's right, Exquisite Corpse works by mixing your words and phrases into a single sentence that goes describing word noun, action, describing word noun. I'll play 3 rounds to create 3 weird sentences, brainstorming some ideas along the way. I'll pick one to try and draft something myself, and then after that, of course, it'll be over to you. If there's any word combination that tickles your fancy, we shall see. I will suggest one, but of course, it's up to you. Whatever inspires you. Okay, so our first word is from Paul Monteith, quivering. Something or someone was quivering. Is this from nerves? Is this from fear? Is this from excitement? A Christmas-fueled excitement. Next word, our noun, is from Titania Tempest, who uses hashtag VSS Magic on Blue Sky. Ooh, nightmare. A quivering nightmare. How very curious. Next entry is the action, which is from Katie. Felt abashed because of... I had to shorten this just to note, because it was too long to include in the full Exquisite Corpse. So the quivering nightmare felt abashed because of... Next word, our describing word, is from Paul Monteith. Multifaceted. Final word. Let it be a good one. This is from Paul Thomas. Cameo. So this would be like a small part in a film or something for a celebrity, or it can be jewellery with a portrait carved into it, like a profile of someone's face. 2 different meanings there. which one should we use? Because altogether, the quivering nightmare felt abashed because of the multifaceted cameo. A quivering nightmare is a very intriguing word combination. The idea that it could be embarrassed by someone or something is truly bizarre. A multifaceted cameo. I think in this context, it would have to be the jewellery. If it's multifaceted, it sounds like something physical like that. A face carved in profile into a pendant. Feels sort of romantic in a way. And I'm thinking, could a nightmare be embarrassed by a romantic dream? Can dreams themselves develop a kind of consciousness and be embarrassed by each other? Might they do battle over a person's nightly preoccupations? I'm picturing it a bit like an angel and a devil floating over each shoulder. One commands nightmares, the other sends you happy dreams, good dreams, dreams to make your nightmares blush. Or could it be someone in your nightmare who then gets caught up in an unplanned romantic dream? Or not that any dream is planned unless these beings can actually do that. They get caught up in a romantic dream involving this piece of jewellery. But then we have to ask, who is this cameo carved into? Who is it meant to look like? Is this the dreamer's way of trying to find someone they once loved through the world of dream? If people can connect through their dreams, maybe? Or what if they dreamed of someone once, loved them, then that person disappeared into the realm of dream as their nights were taken over by nightmares? This is a very strange kind of dream punk idea where you imagine, what if dreams were real in some sense? What if they do impact on reality? It's a very weird kind of speculative fiction thing to do, and I like it. But I think we need to reach into the socks of destiny and see if there's anything else. So this is from Paul Monteith, Quantum Fairy on Blue Sky. Liquefied. Oh dear, I hope the next one is about food. I really do. Okay, this is also from Paul Monteith, Quantum Fairy on Blue Sky. Don't believe it. It is about food. It's Christmassy too. Mince pie purloiner, or thief. Oh dear, a liquefied... Is it the thief who's liquefied? Surely not. A liquefied mince pie purloiner. Who's going to steal that? Gross. Liquefied mince pies. Because we have to take it that way, or we are talking nasty horror. Okay. Oh my goodness. Right, next one. This is an action from Paul Macmillan. Shared her secrets with. So the liquefied mince pie has secrets? No, it must be the thief. The thief of these things is the one who has the secrets. Right, moving on swiftly. I can get this word out. The next word is from Sean, also known as Blue Wizard Facts. Boisterous. Okay, last word in this entirely bonkers Exquisite Corpse. This is from Anonymous. Miner. A boisterous miner. Okay. As in someone who mines, M-I-N-E-R. Okay, all together, we have a little touch of Christmas in this. The liquefied mince pie purloiner shared her secrets with the boisterous miner. Okay, I think it's time to have some green tea and see if this helps. Okay. Right. The liquefied, I can't even say it, the liquefied mince pie purloiner shared her secrets with the boisterous miner. Well, apparently there is a secret to the art of stealing liquefied mince pies. As if you want to know that secret. But that might be the only way this thief can steal them, is in liquefied form, unless she uses it to make a delicious smoothie. That sounds pretty grim. But you do get some weird smoothie varieties. Mince pie smoothie, anyone? Is that her secret? She runs a stand at a Christmas market selling these things. And these are hot smoothies. Now there I might be able to sort of get there if you take away the pastry aspect. Okay, I'm trying here. But the reason they're delicious is that she's stolen them from Santa's actual grotto. I think this is the only way with this Exquisite Corpse story. You got to go all in with the Christmas theme. We've got to do that with one of these Exquisite Corpses. I mean, come on, it's the Christmas show. So our boisterous miner is a dwarf who's been mining, not precious stones, because jewellery isn't really a great gift for children, mining magic. And he's fed up of being stuck underground, and he wants a new job in catering. Or maybe he just wants to earn some extra money on the side, helping this thief in an elf suit steal mince pie ingredients from Santa himself. I'm seeing a heist story here. But it does, I have to admit, it does feel more like one of those ridiculous movies you get around this time of year. But you never know. It's one of those things. It could work if you develop the characters, throw in a bit of darkness, give the dwarf some real gripes with Santa. Santa, the dark side. It hasn't been done. Is this for good reason? I don't know. Have you tried it? Well, if we haven't tried it, how can we judge? Okay, so that was truly bonkers. So I am now reaching in for our third and final Exquisite Corpse of the day. This is from Nicholas Bozzo. Fierce. Okay, let's see who or what was fierce. This is from Paul Thomas. Ooh, widow. Fierce widow. Let's try for an action. This is from Alessandro Bozzo. Sat on the porch with. Okay. Next word is from, Melody, who is Fickaholic on Blue Sky. Stubborn. Okay, final word is from Meg. Peacock. Well, that could mean someone who loves to dress up and consider themselves rather beautiful. Strutting around, there is such a concept. Altogether, we have the fierce widow sat on the porch with the stubborn peacock. A fierce widow. For some reason, I can only think of a black widow spider. Spiders like to sit like they're thinking about their next move, planning it. This widow is just sitting in this scene on the porch. So could this be a way of connecting this character with the concept of the spider? You could use subtle hints or details that point to similarities. The veil she wears is gossamer thin with intricate patterns like a web. What if she knits or crochets something in a web-like pattern as well? She sits there quietly clicking her needles, watching, waiting. And this stubborn peacock, maybe this is a young man who's very persistent in something. Is he a salesman who's come knocking on the door, waving a brochure at her? He's relieved that someone along this street hasn't slammed the door in his face straight away. Maybe this old lady is lonely. But there's something strange about this woman, overly quiet as she sits and knits and clicks her needles, eyeing him like he might be her next meal. Maybe that's how this story ends, and that would be why the fierce widow sat on the porch with the stubborn peacock. Okay, well, between that and pureed mince pies, but no, there was another one, there was another Exquisite Corpse. We had a quivering nightmare as well, with a multifaceted cameo, which was a very curious one. So, I shall use the pause button without further ado to try and write a scene or a story based on one of these. Wish me luck. He wore the nightmare as a cloak, hardly knowing how it flapped at his ankles and dimmed his vision of the glimmering snow. Everywhere he looked, faces snarled, long wolf-like jaws snapped. Hollowed eyes stared like holes torn from the night. It was just as the old woman in the tavern had said as she slipped the vial of blue-green liquid to him under the table. Drink this in one gulp on a night when the snow has settled, and you will enter the realm of nightmare. The castle will open itself up to you, parts that do not, strictly speaking, exist. You will see the unseen under the cloak of the dream. Those strange words echoed in Prince Tarek's head as he tramped on through the snow. His teeth chattered so hard he bit his tongue, though not from the cold. The rusty tang of blood in his mouth only reminded him of his weakness, the realness of his flesh, so easily injured. He staggered aside at the glimpse of another ghoulish figure groping for him soundlessly before it was absorbed back into the night. Yet still, everywhere he looked, the bluish-green haze of the nightmare draped over his vision like a see-through blanket, made the darkness squirm with dreadful shapes. But why shouldn't he be allowed something his elder brother didn't have? Wasn't it enough that Peter would be king and Tarek forever in his shadow? He remembered with a pang that pendant carved in his mother's likeness, her face magicked to tell the future that father dangled so cruelly in front of the boys when they were little. His dead mother's face declaring that Tarek would never come to more than a thief. Of all the magic his royal education granted him, Tarek could still to this day hardly abide the use of objects that had been enchanted to speak. Nor could he walk past his mother's portrait in the hallway without gulping down his shame. But this adventure into the unknown was a magic his sensible brother would never know. Tarek gathered his long coat around him, keeping his eyes fixed ahead on the glowing white snow. Too long he'd felt a stranger in his own home. A spare part, the dreamer, He loved to stray beyond the castle grounds and mix with ordinary folk in the local tavern, pretending to be a trader or a farmer. If anyone noticed the smoothness of his hands and the lack of dirt on his clothes, the plainest he could find, then they had the grace to pretend along with him, for a round or two. There was a whole world out there that princely Peter would never know about. And now there was this, unseen, unknown parts of the castle spied through the veil of a nightmare. The snow creaking under his boots, Tarek cast about for a wall he didn't recognise, a doorway, even a dent in the old stones he knew so well. The base of a tower shorter than the rest. He caught his breath. It hadn't been there before, wonky, sticking out of the castle like a hitchhiker's thumb. Flecks of snow flitted around it, whirling aside. Heavens, even the snow wouldn't settle on it. Tarek reached out, pressed a hand against the stones. Their cold, grimy smoothness beat through his palm before his fingers slipped through air. Not real? He whispered to himself. A wolf's maw slid into view beside him, gnashing its spiked teeth. Real enough, it snarled. Just the nightmare, Tarek chanted silently, snatching back his hand and striding ahead with a swagger he did not feel. The open doorway was dark, like a mouth swallowing him up. Inside was a circular room, with no furniture that Tarek could see, for every inch glittered, jewels everywhere. Gemstones as big as his fists and bigger. Tarek clenched and unclenched his own fists at his sides. Not a thief, never a thief, he told himself, though the gleam of that red ruby filled him with a feeling like thirst. And think of how many rounds of drinks he could buy with those gold coins, spilling out of that chest like a tongue. While Tarek never wanted for anything, Father was very careful with the pocket money he allowed his sons. Particularly when it came to Tarek, there was no room for secret frivolities. But this... He reached out, ran his fingertips over the coins. They trickled as smooth as they were bright, as if reflecting a light from above. It was the room itself, the walls and the ceiling, the shadow of the beast that snarled from the dark doorway that were the visions, flickering softly. The treasure was solid. And yet, all of this had been hidden completely by such a vision. A veil of sorts, to protect the castle's most ancient jewels. Did Father even know about it? If he did, he'd never tell Tarek. Perhaps that old lady in the pub had visited this place herself and taken a few extra coins as payment. Why wouldn't she? He pressed his lips together at the sight of it all. Then his mouth fell open. The cameo! Lying on top of a red velvet cushion. The pendant that went missing so many years ago, of his mother's face sculpted from a white shell against an oval onyx surround. Dumbstruck, he picked it up, turning it this way and that. His mother's profile carved in relief, so beautiful, gave way to another, protruding ghost-like from her left side, and another face on her right side, all the faces turning towards him. Tarek jolted, almost dropping the thing. He spread his palm flat so as not to touch or be touched by the three faces that now whispered at him, words overlapping. A thief! Nothing but a common thief! But that was your present tense. This is your past. I speak of your future. Listen to me. Stop, said Tarek, and closed his hand over the pendant. He pressed down, and the voices became muffled, silenced. The heaps of gold and jewels melted away. The walls disintegrated, soft as a curtain dropping, to reveal an empty field of snow. Tarek spun, scouring the familiar castle walls for some sign of the tower he'd been standing in just a moment before. Nothing. A woman's voice next to him made him start. Thank you for setting me free. What? But who are you? Tarek stared. He recognised the old woman from the tavern. She smiled, though every wrinkle on her face seemed scored with regret and frustration. I am your past, banished from your life by your father. A piece of me has been hidden in this place since you were a boy. After that pendant didn't work out so well, the king didn't want any living reminder of your mother, my own dear daughter. She placed a hand on Tarek's shoulder, heavy, strong. I was the face of your past, but now I can be in your present, since the spell has been broken. She teased open his palm to reveal a simple-looking cameo with one face, his mother's, carved in white shell, still and unenchanted. You did become a thief after all, said his grandmother, though I'm glad it was only to steal me back. And that is how the quivering nightmare felt abashed because of the multifaceted cameo. Sort of. But I'm pretty confident that I would never have thought up this concept without having come across this exquisite corpse of a wearable nightmare, a sort of veil that helps you see things that you wouldn't otherwise see. Although, in a way, if you think about it, your state of mind can be sort of like a veil, can't it? When you're stressed out about something, it colours your whole perception of what's going on around you. And equally, when you're really happy or excited, everything seems brighter, more buoyant, and it's easier to anticipate other positive things happening around you. Anyway, that's a whole other labyrinth of thought. But wearable nightmares that open your vision to unseen possibilities, not coming to a supermarket near you anytime soon. But that's why we have stories, so we can experience in the safety of our imaginations things we probably wouldn't want to go through in real life. Am I right? I think looking over the exquisite corpses today, I'd like to hear what you would make of the quivering nightmare. What else could that mean? If that doesn't float your boat, another option might be the multifaceted cameo, because cameo can mean different things, like a bit part in a film. I think it can also mean a very short, neat piece of writing. You know what to do. Go to annatizard.com, hit the contact button on any page footer, and write up to 250 words of a story or a poem, or you could just describe an idea or a character idea in a few sentences if you like. You don't actually have to write out the full scene if that doesn't grab you. Well, in the meantime, I wish you a very happy Christmas and New Year, although I am back again in 2 weeks' time, as usual, on the 3rd of January, so I'll probably be wishing you a Happy New Year all over again. Never mind, you can take it twice. A little bit extra positivity. Until next time, go forth and be inspired and festive. I hope you enjoyed today's Brainstorium. You can find out more about Exquisite Corpse and my series, The Book of Exquisite Corpse, at annatizard.com. Subscribe to my e-newsletter and you'll get Volume 1 for free. And while you're there, why not submit a few words to the Socks of Destiny on my play page? You may inspire me or inspire yourself to write a unique new story. See you next time.